Alright, you guys, in today's video, I wanted to go ahead and talk a little bit about drawing strange things and how I go about approaching a sketchbook. So if that sounds like something you would enjoy or a process you would like to hear about, I'm Rory Fluent. Feel free to call me Rory. If you're new around here, hi, hello, how are you? I like to create dope art content and hopefully curate a chill atmosphere. And if you're not new around here, what is up, my dudes? Let's get into this video. You can see we're kind of starting a little bit like partway into the first page in the sketchbook spread, and I'm not really sure what happened to that footage. Maybe I forgot to hit record. I guess we'll never know because I really don't know what happened, but that's totally fine. We're kind of just jumping right into it, and I wanted to go ahead and paint a couple things that I have never painted before, just to prove to myself that I don't know, I can adapt my style to new and interesting little guys. And in this video, I wanted to go ahead and draw some like anteaters. I don't know, my partner and I were talking about something and I was comparing something to an anteater, and I was like, you know what, that would make for a really fun sketchbook spread. So I went ahead and I did it. I also wanted to challenge myself a little bit more with the color scheme, so I was trying to go a little bit more out of my comfort zone. I know that stupid Naples yellow is still here in the sketchbook. I can't seem to shake it. I always want to use it, but I also threw in like a, like a moody purpley color and this really nice, warm, sandy green. I even go in with one of my favorite colors in my handmade watercolor palette, which is called Indigos by Jasper Stardust. I'll probably put it up so you guys know what it is. And it's just so vibrant and beautiful, and it's very much like not a color I normally gravitate towards, but I feel like it is a color that I always admire and always want to use, so I love when I can find a way to kind of work it in. But all of that being said, I was trying to draw some anteaters this first page, and this is kind of how I normally do it. The page that has like potentially like Copic marker bleeding through, or is on the back of the last spread that I made. I will normally start off with that page, and especially if I'm drawing something new, I'll kind of just figure out how I'm going to adapt my style to these creatures. So they're probably not going to be the best sketches or the most, practiced, because they are my practice. And so that's why I decided to do like a really big guy in the center, because I was just like, okay, let's figure out how I even want to go about this. And I don't know, like in hindsight, I think maybe drawing a few more smaller dudes would have been more helpful in terms of like actually studying what an anteater is and what they look like. And I think in the future I would probably break up that space with a lot more smaller sketches, since it is the side of the spread where I'm kind of going about drawing this new thing first. But yeah, I don't know, I decided I wanted to draw a really big one, so I went ahead and did that. But yeah, so like going back to what I was originally talking about with sort of like the theme of this video, I wanted to just kind of explain some of my thought processes when it comes to sketchbooks. And to start, normally I start on the left side of this spread, because that's the one with like bleed through or whatever, so it helps me kind of figure out what I want to do. There's not as much pressure on that side of the spread. Not that there's really any pressure on the other side either, but you know, when it's already fucked up, it makes it a lot easier if I'm gonna fuck up. And yeah, then from there, sometimes I like to keep the pages separate. Sometimes I like to have illustrations or doodles bleeding over the pages, which always feels like makes this entire spread, honestly, feel a lot more cohesive and a lot more like a single unit rather than two pages pasted together or that just so happen to be next to each other. I don't know, I guess there's just something about like having a sketch bleed through throughout the spread that just really ends up like helping it feel cohesive, and like compositionally, like the two pages are like together and feel very whole and don't feel like separate entities, but at the same time I'm also thinking about them as separate pieces, so I'm kind of thinking about each page individually compositionally. And then also when I go ahead and decide when I want to add color and where I want to add the color to, I consider like both sides of the spread and what I ended up doing on the first page, and seeing how I can sort of work with that and integrate not only the same colors but You'll see, for example, that I end up kind of taking the Dutch green and using it a little bit less in the second part of the spread because the big guy that I painted is with that Dutch green, and so I wanted to sort of, from a like composition and contrast standpoint, kind of balance out that green by not using it quite as much on the other side of the spread. And I do that kind of with all the colors, and sometimes I'll have a color that like ties through. As of lately, normally it is the Naples yellow color that I'm just so in love with. But yeah, I kind of like to start my sketchbook spreads by just completing one page and then moving on to the next. Or if I'm not starting on a specific page, I'm starting on a select few doodles. Like maybe those doodles are all in the middle, but I'm kind of starting in a cohesive spot and then kind of working outwards towards the rest of the spread from there. And I genuinely like to go kind of like doodle by doodle and complete each doodle. So I'll end up having part of a spread that's inked and part of a spread that isn't even started, because especially when I'm trying to draw like a new thing, I'm trying to really learn how I want to go about doodling and illustrating and just kind of finalizing. For example, in this sketchbook, the anteaters, I end up finalizing all of these ones that you're seeing on this spread because I really want to learn, okay, so how do I want to do the line work, and what do I want to do with colors, and it's just all kinds of things like that, and how do I want to fill this space. And so it just ends up making a lot more sense, especially if I'm like learning a new creature or whatever, or studying a new creature. I want to go ahead and take the time to fully complete these doodles so that I understand what I'm getting into, and I don't know what mistakes I made in this part of the spread that I can correct in the next one. Because obviously, like, the goal, especially when you're like trying to learn a new thing, is to practice and then take what you learned from that practice and apply it to the next time that you draw it. And so in this case, I'm using this left spread, or this left page, as a sort of practice spread, and then going on to the next one and trying to build off of those mistakes while still making sure that the two pages together look like a cohesive spread. Hopefully that makes sense. Currently in the video, you can see that I am finishing up with my line work. I absolutely adore the way that they come out, especially for like a first time drawing anteaters. I don't know, I was just feeling like really happy with myself, really proud of my art skills, and I was feeling like, oh my god, I actually took like my style and this whole idea of like always wanting to create things that are kind of goofy and make me laugh and make me giggle to myself, and I really like actually created these anteaters in a way that made me feel all of that, and that was really exciting, especially the one on the middle of the page that kind of bleeds over into the next part of the spread. I love his little face. He's going like and staring up at the sky, and he's got his eyes closed and he's just like peaceful. Maybe he just like ate something really tasty and he's just like enjoying it and savoring the moment. I don't know, but it's adorable and I'm really happy with it. And then right above him, actually, you can see I drew this little like, look from here, it kind of looks like a little lump, but it's like a little armadillo-y looking guy, and you'll see that I end up kind of adding some more texture to I think all of them, honestly. I was really loving adding like the tiny lines with different colors of paint to give like the different fur textures more contrast, and so there's more going on, but not like, I don't know, for example, on the large anteater in the middle, I started and I have these darker, bolder lines insinuating the fur, and then I also have these lighter ones that kind of take a I don't know, are more like in the background because the color is softer and it still adds visual interest, but it doesn't like overcrowd or create something that is too busy to look at. I think it's just like a good amount of texture, and that made me really happy because that's definitely something I've been trying to figure out how to do. Layering textures and like layering different colors of textures is something that I've been exploring because I've been experimenting with texture for so long now that I just feel like it's about time that I start really, I don't know, like upping my game with that. And oh my god, I just remembered that in one of my last videos I told myself that I was going to stop saying I don't know so much. I still need to do that. But anyways, layering the textures and layering different colors with the textures is just like something that I'm starting to do now because I feel like I'm getting a lot more adept and a lot more skilled in adding texture in my drawings in the first place. And so I want to continue to grow in that way and continue to make strides to become better and better and make my art the best that it can. And a great way to do that is to continue pushing yourself. Even once you've hit a goal, make a new one. And so that's what I'm doing here, is slowly starting to experiment with texture in different ways because I'm more confident in my way to, or I guess my ability to use it now, and that's really cool. And I will say, even though you guys didn't get to see that process during my sketching, I also treat the sketchbook spread very similarly. So I start on the left, I sketch them, I study them, I figure it out, and then I go to the right part, which is like the fresher page, and I go ahead and really focus on how do I want these creatures to look. And I do this like for spreads where I'm not necessarily like studying a specific animal. Like I still am a little bit looser on the left side because it's normally a little fucked up. There's a lot of bleed through because I use different media. I would definitely consider myself a multimedia artist, and because of that I tend to have, you know, like different patches of the left side of my sketchbook that always bleed through or smudge or whatever it is. Sometimes I'll even cover up those smudges with white gouache, or maybe I'll just like paint with that in mind and then go in with much darker colors, whether it be with watercolor or pastel or gouache, and I'll kind of like choose colors that blend with the marks and bleed that are made on the other side of the page, so that way it doesn't stand out as much, especially if I'm not in the mood to maybe use it as like a sketchy page or like a learning experience, and I'm trying to make like a really cohesive kind of more like finalized looking spread or something like that. Or I guess there's just no need to be super experimental and like to study something. I'll go about it by trying to figure out how I can integrate the bleed through in a way that's still gonna look good or not be as noticeable or whatever it is. Like with my last video, I was painting spooky things and I wasn't really like studying anything per se, so I kind of tried to be a little mindful of where those marks and bleed through was so that I could cover them up and work around them and make the spread still look very I don't know, like nice and clean. Though I do love crowded spreads. I know we've established this, but if you're new here, I love trying to crowd my sketchbook page. It's something I've been working on for a while. I still haven't quite figured out the perfect way for me to kind of add clutter and I don't know, just make my sketchbook pages and spreads as engaging as they can. A couple of things that I've been doing to do that is like drawing smaller and bigger and having size contrast, lots of small doodles, things that go off of the page, you know, that like break the sort of frame of reference and bleed through. I'm also adding color in the background so it's not all white, and I love adding typography or any kind of like lettering to my spread. Anything that I can, I do, because I just end up feeling like it is really cool to have the contrast of like all these colored doodles and then like the normally dark black line work of a word of some kind. I just feel like it plays really, really well with the inking, and I always love the way it looks. On this side of the spread, to return to what I'm doing currently in the video, I not only kind of experimented a little bit more with color by making one of the anteaters like that pinky purpley color, but I also started throwing around that green a bit more, and I was drawing a few different things. And of course my cat has interrupted already like twice this video. That was the third time. He was very angry with me. His food bowl was empty and he was being a jerk about it, but when isn't he, honestly? But yeah, on this spread in particular, I decided to add a few more anteaters, and then in the like bottom right corner of the right page, I was going ahead and drawing these, what were they called? I can't remember. They're sort of like these scaly looking creatures that sort of curl up into a ball like an armadillo, but they're not an armadillo. I should have written the name down, but I honestly cannot remember what they are. I just googled it. It's a pangolin. I was using like pangolins as little like references and just kind of, drawing creatures inspired by them. They're not like exactly them, but I was having fun with the texture, and especially like the scaly bits. I have to look into like what exactly that is because they are so interesting looking. If anyone happens to know, feel free to talk about it in the comments down below, because I'm kind of interested now in what exactly those growths are. If they're like scaly, I mean, they look a little, like they almost look very, this is me kind of, oh my god. I feel like I'm like tripping over my words every 30 seconds here. I don't know what's happening. I think I'm talking a little bit too fast for myself at the moment, but anyways, I feel like this is going to be a little bit of a strange analogy, but if any of you have ever tried to like touch a succulent, like specifically the succulents that have those like round bulbous leaves, I don't know about anybody else, but I always really, really wanted to like squeeze them and press on them because they looked like such a fun texture. And the pangolin, like, what are they? Like scales or growths or whatever they happen to be. They really, really remind me of those like squishy succulent bits. I don't know if anybody knows what the hell I'm talking about, but yeah, they definitely do. And then like this bug, I have it written down. You guys will see it at the end because I cannot remember what the hell it's called. You'd think that I would prepare a little bit before I start these voiceovers, but I don't always remember that, like, I have these weird things doodled on the spread, so I don't always remember to look. And sure, I could, like, pause it and go walk over to my desk, but whatever. It's, like, something weird, like a trilobite beetle. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but if you look them up, they have all these really strange, like lumps. They also kind of look like a living succulent. Oh, I should have written that down. That would have been really cool to like write down like living succulent, or maybe I'll do like a sketchbook spread if I remember dedicated to that. But yeah, so either way, I also drew one of those guys, and they all kind of remind me of like squishy succulents and that's kind of strange velvety texture. And so I'm not totally sure like what they're made of, especially the pangolins. Like I'm pretty sure the beetle is like a hard exoskeleton kind of shell, but the pangolins, I can't tell what the hell the growths are on their body like at all. But I did think that they looked pretty cool around the anteaters, and it kind of, I don't know, in my head the theme kind of fit together and it was all working. Even though it wasn't all anteaters, it was all kind of like niche, kind of interesting looking stuff that kind of looked the same. And so I was pretty happy with it because it wasn't just like, okay, I'm just gonna draw a ton of anteaters and that's what's gonna be all over the spread. And it kind of created like I don't know, more visual interest because there's more going on than just anteaters. And just like overall, I feel like adding them was I don't know, a lot of fun, which in the end I guess is all that matters. You can see that I start to fill in the line work and complete these drawings, and yeah, I don't end up needing to like fill in a bunch of stuff. I don't like need a doodle to add anywhere. Oh my god, that was a weird way of saying that, but you understand what I mean. I end up just kind of completing this one pretty quickly. It didn't take so long because I kind of already knew what I was getting myself into, having done the first side of the spread. This one went very quickly, very smoothly. I knew what I wanted to improve on. The only thing that was kind of weird was when the white gouache dried like basically clear. That really threw me off. I was like, here I am thinking I'm using like a super opaque, like thick coat of the white gouache, and clearly I wasn't. So I had to go ahead and go in with that a second time earlier in the video, or earlier in this part. But oh my god, look at the little pangolin as I start to doodle him in. I end up loving this little guy on like the furthest right side of the page that's just kind of dangling off of nothing. I think he's so adorable. I just want to like pick him up and squish him. And yeah, honestly, for like drawing things that I've never drawn before, I feel like this was a huge win for me. That's not always the case. If you've been following me for a little while, you know that it is not easy to draw new things and new subjects. And so it was really nice and fun. I guess they are all kind of side view-ish versions of the anteaters. So in the future, I'd love to draw some more angles of them. I think if I was going to redo one thing, it would be on the left side of the page, taking that as a chance to study the anteater a bit more and draw some like more unique poses. I mean, I have a couple unique poses, but just something a little bit more complicated with different angles, so that way I have a little bit better understanding specifically of their faces and like how to go about drawing the face at a different angle. But other than that, and that's definitely a small nitpick, I am like really stoked with this spread, and I'm not just saying that like I do at the end of every video. I feel like I really like figured something out here, and it all just kind of clicked and went really smoothly, which is not what happens. Oftentimes I have to gouache over something, or there's definitely like an ugly phase where I'm like really panicking and I'm like, I don't like this. And that didn't happen here, so I consider that a pretty big win. I was doing something right here, and I want to make sure that I continue to do that. And I also hope that as we're getting into the last little part of this video and I'm showing you some like close-ups, I hope that going through kind of like a little bit of my sketchbook process and like how I look at a sketchbook and how I decide to approach a sketchbook, especially in this specific circumstance where I'm like studying something, and I hope like breaking that down and just kind of chatting about my thought process was helpful and engaging to you guys. If you've lasted this long into the video, thank you so much for sticking around. Feel free to do the YouTubey things, like, comment, subscribe, and if you don't know what to comment, feel free to comment algorithm because it helps a bunch. And thank you so much. I will talk to you hopefully in the next video. Bye!